The sermon today is entitled Majesty, by Chance or Intelligent Design. I can go back to when I think I was about 10 years old and I got my first telescope. And I hope today's sermon doesn't show too much of my geeky side, if you will, but rather to allow us to reflect truly on the majesty of creation and what God has put before us. But again, I was about 10 years old. I got my first telescope, and I didn't know anything that was out there. And I started peeking around, and by chance, I ran across the planet Saturn. And I was just so captured by that moment that it literally burned and etched in my memory when I found it. And I said, oh my goodness, it's got rings around it. And this was just a little small, cheapy telescope. But for the remaining part of my life, I got involved in telescopes and building telescopes. And I've had different sizes, anything. You know, the first one I built was an 8-inch reflector, which is a pretty good sized mirror in the back end of it. And later I got a 10-inch one as well. But I've always been interested in looking up at the stars in the heavens. And when you and I start to look up at the universe and look at the stars that are up there, sometimes we can be awestruck by the beauty that is presented before us. And as we start to see that, and sometimes when you get into a dark area, you can actually start to see more and more of these stars that surround us. And we can sometimes ponder the origin of all of this that is there. And when we consider our own solar system, that's the planets within that are surrounded by the sun that we have, we can also start to marvel at the position that we hold within our own solar system and start to wonder, why does life exist only here alone and nowhere else in our solar system, or for that matter, anywhere else in the universe? All right, so we start to look at some of these. This one is what's called a deep sky image, and they pointed the Hubble telescope at an area of the sky they thought there was nothing there. And as you see, those aren't stars, but each one of those is a galaxy by itself, containing probably hundreds of millions of stars, and there's probably thousands of galaxies within this one little image. And so as we start to dig deeper and deeper, we see a tremendous amount that comes into the creation. Now, when we look at science and what they've done trying to explain this, they are still immensely baffled by the way the universe is expanding. And they've got all kinds of theories, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of the fallacies or the areas where they struggle, because science cannot explain a lot of these things. So we start to wonder, if we can't explain the universe and we understand that we only use a small portion of our brain, how is it that we think that we can really comprehend all of the universe and how it was created? And sometimes we see that there are galaxies that are in collision with each other. They're literally the matter from one galaxy pulling or stretching the other galaxy apart. Most of us don't realize that our galaxy is on a collision course as well. But it's going to be probably, I think that's like 300 million years from now that'll happen. So don't worry about it. Nothing happening anytime soon. This particular galaxy is not our own. I believe this is M31, which is the Andromeda galaxy, but it's very similar to our own galaxy. So we start to look at, well, why does our position within a galaxy or the rest of what how things are composed here, how does that have any effect? We start to look at the abundance of life and the diversity of life on our own planet. How is all this different or unique, if you, that causes life to be here? And we look at the complexity of cells and molecules, or for that matter, DNA. We start to wonder, how is it that we're so unique that life actually exists? All of these things our scientists have been studying, they've been looking into, they understand little bits and pieces here and there, but if you wonder, is this all by chance, or is there really intelligent design that goes into the creation of everything that we know? And if you believe in evolution, then this is all by chance. That's what they believe. There is no intelligent design, no designer, no creator, no God. On the other hand, if you believe in creation, then you believe in God, you believe in a creator, a designer who applied intelligence in this creation. So we now have a chance to look at some of the science here and what does it take for life to exist. Now, when we start to look at this, I'm not going to get into if you will, a discussion on quantum physics or statistics, because that's not the point here. But it allows us, if you will, to look at some factors here regarding life. Scientists believe that there are at least 15 factors that allow us to have life here. And we're going to look at some of these things and try to decide, based on these factors, whether or not this is by chance, if you will, or is there intelligent design. The first of these that I've chosen is the proximity of the sun to allow liquid water. Now, when we look at our planets, and you can see just the edge of the sun on this particular image. Actually, I don't quite see if it showed up on there. Okay, on the far edge, you'll see it there. And then we see next to that Mercury, then Venus, then our Earth, then Mars. Then we can start to see the large gaseous giants. This is Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And at the far edge, you see Pluto, but now Pluto's been declassified. They don't call it a planet anymore. They believe it was just a captured body. So that's the way they look at it there. But there's something unique about the position of where the Earth is. If you took it just 1% closer to the sun or 1% farther away, what we think of as normal having liquid water would either, if we went too close, that water would primarily exist more as a gas. If you took it too far away, it would freeze and become a solid. So we have something unique that holds us right where we need to be, where water can exist in three phases. As a gas, we see it in the clouds. As a solid, we see it as liquid water, or as a solid, one was a liquid, and then the other is a solid when we have ice or frozen water. So all of these, it's essential for our life to have water. We were told that after 3 days without water, we would effectively perish. If we didn't have water in a liquid form, we would have no means of bringing liquid into us, which our body depends upon this. So we, in a sense, live in a special zone that allows water to exist as a liquid or as a vapor or as a solid. And that's unique in the universe. Thus far, we've not seen it anywhere else. So life without water possibly would not exist. And they've been looking on other planets and other exoplanets to see, is there any other way for this to happen? But those ideas are purely theoretical at this point, and there's no empirical evidence to allow us to support that assumption. So let's now go on here. The second one is the size and the composition of the Earth as a rocky planet. Now, again, we looked at all of our planets just a moment ago, but there's something unique about our planet in that it has a combination of water and hard rocky surface. So given some of the recent studies of the distance of distant stars and the ongoing discovery of exoplanets, and exoplanets is essentially a planet outside of our own system. Many planets of the universe appear to be gas giants. You can see Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all gaseous planets. They don't have a solid surface or a rocky surface. So if you landed on it, you would literally fall into gas and then into kind of a soupy mix, if you will. You're not going to land on anything until you literally would fall thousands of miles into the surface, and you might be able to hit on something somewhat solid. So it's not a place where you could have life. And that's the point. Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune, you cannot have any life here. The current science indicates that the rocky planet that we live on offers the best foundation for life, and especially a diversity of life. So again, this is another factor or variable. So if we look at the other planets, we have Mercury closest to the sun. It's all rocky. There's no atmosphere. You can see all the bombardment areas there where impact of asteroids and meteors have completely started to decimate the surface. But this is the early stages. But still, from time to time, there are things that impact the other planets. This is Venus. This is stripped away with the clouds or the gases that surround it, and this is done through radar. But it's around 900 degrees there. There's no way for life to exist, and the gases are methane and others. Nothing you can breathe. There's no life there. This is Mars. Mars, right now, they're investigating. This section that you see right there in the middle is the Great Grand Canyon of Mars. But we're on Mars right now, not as human beings, but through rovers, and you can see off to the side there, the little tiny, they actually have a drone on Mars now, okay, where they fly around. They are looking for water. They're looking for any form of life. And I'm sure if they found some little organism that they would declare to be life, but yet the hypocrisy is we could have an unborn child in the womb, but we don't call that life. But we might find a little organism over here, and they're going to say, we found life. Okay, so in a sense, it's a hypocrisy. Yes, they're looking for life on other planets or the possibility that life once existed. But Mars right now, we see it as the red planet because it's mostly the color, because there's a lot of ferrous or iron, and it oxidizes, and there's no water there. There's no way for life. They had thought at one time there might have been life, but nothing. Jupiter, again, is a gaseous planet. It's extremely large. Probably over 1,000 times our size, but there's no possibility for life there. Saturn, beautiful. This is the one that I bumped into as a young kid. Beautiful. It's a sight to see. It's the majesty of creation, but there's no life there. Okay, here's Jupiter and Saturn in conjunction with each other just through someone's telescope. This is Uranus, and you can see the little tiny disk or ring. We find out that Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune and Uranus all have rings, but most of the time we can't see them there. But it's, again, part of the creation. And then finally, Pluto, which, again, is just a captured body, but, again, no possibility of life. It's so far away from the sun, it's a frozen world. There's nothing there. So on to the next one here, the stability of the Earth's atmosphere and chemical composition. This little thin blue line that you see there, that's our atmosphere. That's what protects us, if you will, helps to shield us from the radiation from the sun, but it's also has our oxygen, what we breathe. All of these things help to keep us alive. It's a crucial factor in life. The other planets, some of the gaseous ones, they have an atmosphere, but it's not breathable. It cannot support life. It's something, again, very unique. We have an atmosphere that not only shields us, and I'll get into that in a little bit here, but provides the chemical compositions to grow vegetation, which we eat, provides for all the other living creatures that are here. It's what they're kind of looking for on Mars. Now, Mars, they believe at one time did have an atmosphere, but it was too thin, and it didn't have enough of magnetosphere to hold that atmosphere, so the solar wind literally blew it away, and now it's left as a dead planet. So again, something very unique. Magnetosphere, and that is effectively a shield that God has placed around, if you will, our planet. We have a molten magnetic core, and it creates this magnetic field around our planet. It's called the magnetosphere, and it's an invisible gravity shield, and it deflects radiation from the sun. Again, we're right at the right position, but without this magnetosphere, our atmosphere would blow away. Again, it's one of those unique characteristics about our planet that we have a shield from the radiation that helps to warm us, that grows our plants, that keeps everything alive. And without the sun, we would perish. But we need to have enough of that warmth radiation to allow us to have life. Now, again, on Mars, they believe that it had a volcanic inside, but its volcanoes have since become dormant, and all of this caused a weak magnetosphere, and consequently its atmosphere went away. It's gone. It's no longer there. The solar wind simply stripped it away from the surface of Mars. All right, so the consistency of temperatures on Earth. Now, we can look at some of these other planets, and I have Venus here in relationship to the planet Earth. It says the average temperature on Venus is 462 degrees Celsius or 864 degrees Fahrenheit. On Mars, it's minus 60 degrees Celsius. So you find that these temperatures, and as soon as the sun would come up on some of these planets, it's going to change from extremely cold to extremely hot. And you would literally either freeze or melt. There's no in between. We have it very, very special here. We have an average temperature on our planet of around 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, today it's going to be around 70. We go up and down a little bit. We live in Wisconsin. We get to see the winters, but we also get to see when it gets warm in the summers. I used to live in Las Vegas, Carla as well. There are times when it's 115, sometimes 120 degrees. It's hot, but it's still livable. Okay, but you can't imagine being in minus 60 all the time or 108 or 864 degrees all the time, because that's what Venus is like. It's literally got a cloud surface that covers the entire planet. It causes an inversion layer which holds that heat in. It's not habitable. We happen to be in that very special zone that allows the temperature to be stable. Diversity of life. One of the things that we see in our planet is just a tremendous amount of different life. And 2/3 of this different type, or rather 65% of the life on Earth has become extinct, but new life comes in. There's always new life, and there's always a diversity of different types of life, whether or not it's on the land or in the sea, in the air. God has always provided different types of life, despite catastrophic events such as a flood or volcanoes. All these things have or impacts on the earth. We've seen down in Mexico where they show this big impact area, which scientists believe that was the catastrophic event that killed off the dinosaurs. That's a whole other discussion. We won't get into that today. But all these things have affected life on this planet, and as we saw on Mercury, or you see on our moon, there are impacts all over the place. There's nothing to protect it, and if there was life, it would usually be killed off. But we have a diversity of life here. Again, something that they can't quite explain. Our moon. We've all seen the moon. We get to see its different things. I was always taught that was kind of like an ant. You see it kind of laying over with the two little parts of its head that way on the side and the rest of its body this way. But when we look at the impacts, you see the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, nothing to protect it. It's been struck throughout all of its time or existence, but it also plays a unique variable in that it stabilizes our own planet. And without the moon, the rotation of the Earth would probably be, instead of a 24-hour period, would probably be around 4 hours without having the moon there to stabilize the Earth. Now, this moon, it's slowed us down to what we have now as a 24-hour day. It affects our weather. It helps in redistribution of water across the planet, irrigating the planet, and it creates tidal zones between the land and the sea. Now we look at also the stability of our sun as a star, and it's actually a very average star in terms of its size and its activity. There are suns that are probably 1,000 times greater the size of our own sun, but this sun that we have is just the right size. They call this the Goldilocks effect. Remember on Goldilocks, the porridge wasn't too hot or too cold, it was just right. And all of these factors that I'm going over are called the Goldilocks factors because everything seems to be just right. Okay, so we have to wonder, is this by chance? As we looked at all these different things, now fortunately we have survived the rare bursts of the sun. Occasionally there are large bursts that come out from our sun, but we have this magnetic field around us that protects us, that shelters us. Our sun is also are solitary star. It's the only one we have. Many other exoplanets, they believe 85% of them are binary systems, meaning they have two suns. Well, that has a tremendous effect on the gravity that is imposed upon the planets around it, and that would literally tear the planets apart. So the next thing as we talk about is our own ozone layer. We've heard a lot about the ozone layer, the tear in our ozone. In fact, we now know that there are reoccurring holes in the north and south poles, but the ozone is much like our magnetosphere. It's another shield for the radiation. It buffers against the radiation that we receive, and also the ultraviolet, especially in the ultraviolet area. So this ozone is another protector for this planet that we live on. A lot of other planets don't have an atmosphere, yet alone an ozone layer to shelter and protect them. Oops. The next is dealing with the amount of water on our Earth. We all know that most of our planet is water. It's not land, but it's a combination of water and land. But we have enough, an abundance of water. And early scientists believe that, the life came out of the early oceans or seas. Okay, we're going to look at that here in a little bit, but it requires more than just puddles of water. Right now, they're on, like on Mars, they're looking for even a hint of water, but they're not finding it, whereas we have an extra amount of water. Jupiter. We talk about bottom dwellers, if you will, in Leviticus. But Jupiter, if you will, is kind of one of those cleaners for our solar system. And I believe it was 1998, there was an asteroid that broke up, and Jupiter was literally sucking up this asteroid. It impacted onto the surface, and scientists got to observe and see that. But Jupiter becomes one of those cleaners for us, if you will, and that's what helps to attract through its own gravitational force. It pulls away things that might potentially hit or impact our own Earth. It's another protection that's provided for us there. And it's, again, unique. There's no life there, but it's something that helps to protect or shield us from that. Jupiter, again, is one of those gaseous planets. No life can be there, but it's there for a reason. It's there in our solar system to protect us. The stability of our own solar system as well. Now, our solar system is relatively stable in terms of planetary orbits. Otherwise, we would have, rocky chunks of matter flying around and striking us all the time. But our solar system is very stable with the planets that are there. Everything stays in harmony. But also beyond this, if you would have these types of collisions and other things going on, then even the most resilient bacteria would probably fail. And that's what they're looking for on Mars right now, any bacteria that might have been. But our Earth is, again, protected or sheltered because of the stability of our solar system. All right, so now, our location within the Milky Way galaxy. We're not in the center of the galaxy where gravity, the scientists right now believe that there would be like a black hole in the center. But we're way off to the edge of our Milky Way. And many of us have looked out at the night skies to see the Milky Way and what it looks like. But we're off on what's called the Andromeda arm of the Milky Way. And we're, in a sense, protected from the high gravity at the outside and being too far at the edge where we would probably not have a single sun, but a binary sun. Again, this is another unique thing about it. The stability of our galaxy as well. Galaxies do matter. Many galaxies are in collision, and I mentioned that our own galaxy is in a collision course, but again, not to be happening for a long, long time from now. But our Milky Way is also rather small compared to some of the other giants that I showed you in some of the earlier pictures. This would decrease the odds of dramatic and catastrophic events, the fact that we are positioned in a very safe area within our galaxy. This is just a picture of us looking towards the center of our own galaxy. We can't see the whole thing because we're in the middle of it, but this is just picture of our Milky Way galaxy from that vantage point. Again, a very safe position. Now, I said we're not going to deal anything in quantum physics, but just to point out what physicists believe is there may be parallel universes. Okay, we have the Earth over here, but through a portal, you're going to have a different kind of a universe here. We're fortunate that we don't experience that. All of our laws of motion and energy and matter and gravity are consistently applied across our universe. There's no fantasy worlds out there. Again, so now we have to pause a moment to decide, with those 15 factors that I just shared with you, are these by chance or is it by intelligent design? Is it possible that all these things just happen to be in the right position in a protective area in the universe? Is that by chance or is it by design? If we look at statistics, let me go back here. They start to look at the odds of, well, what about one or two of these variables? Well, the likelihood of one or two or so of these variables happening around a planet or an exoplanet is actually kind of high. That you might have an atmosphere or potentially water, but sometimes the water might be frozen. So the statistics of one or two of these is fairly high. When we start to ask, well, what about 3 or 4 of these variables, making life a little bit more possible? The statistical odds start to push off more and more, less likely that. So what is the likelihood of 15 of these variables just happening by chance? And that's what scientists are struggling right now, because they want to believe, and they keep espousing, yes, it's all by chance that all this happened. And you think, that almost sounds like fantasy. It doesn't sound like reality. You almost have to have more faith to believe that these things all happen by chance. I mean, scientists today want to tell you that all the matter of the universe was compressed into something about the size of a period on a page. And then you ask, well, how did that get there? Oh, we don't know. We can't explain that. Okay, so they want you to believe that first there was nothing, now there's something, and it all expanded and we have the universe that we have today. That sounds very much like fantasy, not reality. So as we start to look at that, we're going to start to also look at it from a different perspective. If it's not by chance, then what? If it seems more apparent to us now that it's more realistic that it's not by chance, there must be a designer, an intelligent designer that's at work here, and there's no other real rational explanation. So when we look at the Big Bang Theory, it fails. Charles Darwin and his theories we know to be faulty. He even stated that if certain things were not met, that his theory would fall or fail. Too many creatures that we have today defy evolution. And they want you to believe that evolution is the foundation for all that that science is built on. And we find out that it's very, very faulty as well. So just how did you and I get here, or how did we get so lucky or privileged to be in exactly the right place at the right time, being so protected or sheltered? Again, is this by chance? So now I want to take a moment to look at this from a different perspective, and I'm going to look at it starting in Genesis, and we're going to start in Genesis 1 as we go through this possible other explanation that's not by chance, but rather intelligent design. And it reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form, and it was void, and the darkness was upon the face of the earth, the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw that the light and that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day and the darkness night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, 'Let there be a firmament in the midst of the heavens,'" or the waters rather, and divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament the heavens, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And it says, God called the dry land earth, and he gathered together the waters and called the seas, and God saw that it was good. It says, and God said, let the earth bring forth the grass, and the herbs to yield yielding seed, and the fruits trees yielding fruit, and after its kind, whose seed if in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And and the earth brought forth the grass and herbs yielding seed after its kind, and the trees yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after the kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmaments of the heavens, and to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater of the light to rule the day, and the lesser of the light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. And God set them forth in the firmament of the heavens, and he to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the morning creatures that hath life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth, and the open firmament of the heavens. And God created the great whales and every living creature that moves, which is in the water, and brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the sea, and let the fowl multiply on the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after its kind, cattle and creeping things, and the beasts of the field, the beast of the earth after its kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after its kind, and the cattle and after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man in our own image, after the likeness, after our likeness, and let them have dominance over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, that everything that creepeth on the earth. And God created man in his own image. In his image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb and bearing seed, and it is upon the face of the earth, and every tree which is in the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and so every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, there is life. I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw this thing that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus heavens and the earth were all finished, and all the hosts of them. And God, on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work. So God blessed the seventh day. He sanctified it because in it he had rested from all his work which God had created And finally, these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth, and they were created in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. Now, earlier on I had Brad read from Job, because our scientists want us to believe in many things that are not Scripture-based. And just on Job 38, verse 2, who is this that darkens the counsel by words without knowledge? We understand that human beings do not know everything. I just read to you from Scripture how God said he spoke it and it was. And we can see that it was not by chance, but rather by intelligent design. So everything that God has said, we are to understand this is how he designed the earth, how he put it here in its very special place, how he sheltered and protected us from all the other elements that are out there. And yet we have the audacity to think beyond that and think, oh, it just happened all by chance. That sounds foolish, and that's why God is speaking to Job and saying, you know, they were talking about some of these things prior to that. And God is saying, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? And that's where we are today in many cases. They want you to take God out of the picture and say, we have the knowledge. We're smart, we're intelligent, we're scientists. Okay. We can see the fallacy in that. We can choose to believe that God put us here and put us here for a reason and protected us, or we can choose to believe man's wisdom, if you will, and believe that that is how we are. We evolved from apes. I choose to believe that I'm a child of God. I hope you do as well.